If Hezbollah does not give up its arms, then Lebanon will cease to exist and will go back into Bilad al-Sham, the Levantines. If Amal tries to basically backstab Hezbollah, they're not backstabbing Hezbollah, they're backstabbing the Shia. Netanyahu, the goal is to basically make Lebanon like Syria. As you can see, the Israelis, they can come into Syria anytime they want, they can bomb, because there's nothing to protect Syria. In Lebanon, they cannot do that. He wants the demilitarization of Hezbollah, period. Hezbollah was in the interest of the United States for 25 years.
So what changed now? Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to i3 Pulse. Today, the US has finalized a plan to disarm Hezbollah by the end of this year. Is this a plan for peace or a trap? And Hezbollah's leader warned of a Karbala-like battle if the Lebanese government complies. And will this threat spark a civil war? And finally, will Hezbollah being disarmed free Lebanon or leave it exposed to Israel? Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How's it going? So, Sheikh, the Lebanese government recently approved the U.S. disarmament plan for Hezbollah, which triggered protests, waves of protests across Lebanon. And I want to show you a clip of Naim Qassem where he made a pretty ominous speech.
لكن هذه الحكومة تنفذ الأمر الأمريكي الإسرائيلي بإنهاء المقاومة ولو أدى ذلك إلى حرب أهلية وفتنة داخلية لن تسلم المقاومة سلاحها والعدوان مستمر والاحتلال قائم وسنخوضها معركة كربلائية إذا لزم الأمر في مواجهة هذا المشروع الإسرائيلي الأمريكي مهما كلفنا ونحن واثقون أننا سننتصر في هذه المعركة وهيهات منا الذلة.
So, Sheikh, this sounds like a declaration of war. What's happening here?
This is usual in Lebanon. No, seriously, it's actually very usual. No, but look, at the end of the day, going from a political perspective,
Yeah.
this is the Secretary General of Hezbollah. It's very serious. I think this is an existential threat for the Shia. What you need to understand is like the Shia have dominated Lebanon the last, let's say, 20 years, right? So it's now their opponents are trying to basically, neutralize them and demilitarize them to take the advantage that they have over everybody else. And definitely that's going to expose Hezbollah itself to more Israeli violence, I would say, in the long term and even the medium term and short term. And the second thing is going to expose the Shia for revenge from many other factions in Lebanon. In terms of the country, definitely the country will become easy target for the Israelis. The Israelis invaded Lebanon multiple times. The first was in 1982. And then basically they pulled out after the what is termed, at least in Lebanon, Harb al-Tahrir, which is the liberation war, or the War of Liberation in 2000. And there was there's definitely more conflict that happened, but right now, and as of now, basically the Israelis they kept 5 posts that they took over within the last war with Hezbollah, and definitely like a teethless or toothless Hezbollah would not be able to really push back any Israeli invasion in the future. So the country will be definitely less able to protect itself, and Hezbollah itself basically will be in shambles, and the Shia will take a hit from a perspective of influence within the country, within the mosaic, or within the different, let's say, factions in the country.
Yeah, it's interesting because this statement happened on Arba'in, right? So 40 days after the massacre of Hussein radiallahu anhu. And so is this, just to understand what you said, Sheikh, for the viewers as well, is this the last kind of rallying cry that Naim Qassem's giving to the Shias of Lebanon and for Hezbollah for their survival? Or because it sounded like he was just rallying all of them. Sound pretty desperate.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's just if people don't know the Lebanese scene, they would think this is different. I think this is like, look, it's definitely intense. And it's not like every day basically people call for war. It's not true. But I'm trying to say basically the intensity of the Shia narrative is like that. They always basically refer to Al-Hussein, to the Arba'in, to Karbala, to and definitely it's being used purposely to mobilize the Shia against the government and the Lebanese and everybody else, right? So it's a signal. Definitely, this speech was made for a reason. It's not like Naim Qassem comes and writes his own speeches. Like, I'm pretty sure he has speech writer, and there's like why they're saying what they're saying. There's a specific strategy. So this is a signal for the other Lebanese factions that are right now pushing to disarm Hezbollah, that this is a red line, and we will mobilize the whole Shia against Lebanon, and this will create like he's really calling for he's threatening with civil war, basically. And sorry to say that, I mean, the other factions are also threatening with civil war. It's not like Hezbollah just woke up, yesterday and said, "Look, I'm going to create civil war." No, the civil war is the rhetoric from Hezbollah that says, "Bring it on, we're ready for a civil war," is a response to the president, the Christian president in Lebanon, with the Sunni prime minister who's trying to push for this to disarm Hezbollah based upon foreign influence from the United States. So the civil war is being pushed by the United States, really. Again, Trump wants the Peace Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
So it seems he's creating more conflicts to try to come and somehow put the fires down and claim a victory.
So on this point, Sheikh, two things. We want to understand what the plan that the U.S. has for Hezbollah's disarmament by the end of the year. And then that's the first thing. But the second thing, you mentioned that Trump wants to get a Nobel Peace Prize, right? So this is an ultimate plan for peace, or is he setting up like a trap for Lebanon?
No, it's not like it's just because it was a little bit sarcastic, but I don't think it has to do with it. But I think the Trump administration is okay with a civil war in Lebanon if they have to do it to crush Hezbollah. Because see, the world powers, they don't care really like how many civilians are dead, how many kids are dead, how many genocide, how many. So they're fine with basically a civil war. They'll strengthen the Christian Sunni sides against the Shia, and they'll let the place burn for a bit until they get the outcome that is more suitable for them. There's no like life is not in the formula from a Western foreign policy perspective.
Now, what's the outcome that they're looking for? Is it just the complete disarmament of Hezbollah? Is it the complete removal of Hezbollah, even from a political, social side? Like, what's the goals of the U.S. in this situation?
The goal is to basically make Lebanon like Syria. As you can see, the Israelis, they can come into Syria anytime they want. They can bomb. They can, intervene because there's nothing to protect Syria. In Lebanon, they cannot do that. If the Israelis right now basically move one step from these 5 posts into Lebanon, they're going to get a resistance. And it's a fierce resistance that they have not been able to destroy. You see what I'm saying? Like, let's say basically Hezbollah lost all their missiles. But it's not about that. It's like this resistance in the ground. It's the whole southern Lebanon. You're going to come in, you're going to face resistance. It's like in 2000, Hezbollah didn't have all these missiles and so forth. They didn't have any of they had 0 long range missiles. They probably didn't have much of the medium range missile that they have now. They did have Katyusha, which is the very short range rockets, not even missiles, right? And that's really it. But mostly it was the resistance in the inside, through asymmetric warfare is what bled the Israelis from a logistical perspective, right? The army is still big. You can't compare Hezbollah, which is a militia, versus the big army. It's just the cost is high. If you make the cost high enough, then you can push the bigger guy out. So even if they take out the missiles from Hezbollah, Hezbollah basically is a barrier for entry of the Israelis into Lebanon. Unlike Syria, for example, right now.
Now, I do have some questions to kind of go a bit deeper onto Hezbollah's military capabilities. This is something that we do need to explore. But just for the viewer, some viewers might not even understand, what is the U.S.'s plan for Hezbollah by the end of the year? Are there specific things that they're giving Lebanon in exchange to having them push for Hezbollah being disarmed? Like, what's the details of this plan?
Well, look, to be honest, basically, I think it depends. I think it's a political decision that the Christians and the Sunnis need to make in Lebanon. I'm not speaking of the population, the politicians. And usually the politicians in Lebanon, they don't, especially the Sunnis, they don't represent any of the Sunnis on the ground. But, you know, some of the Christian factions are fine with burning the country so they can take over. Like the Quwat al-Lebanese, for example, Lebanese forces. They allied themselves with Israelis before, so it's not like, you know, they're very blatant about it. They have no problem allying themselves with the Israelis against the whole country and the whole population. So it depends if basically they are ready for such a civil war. If they're ready for such a civil war, then the Americans will be happy to give them the military support that they need, right? And yeah, they'll do that. So it's the Lebanese army, for example, will be utilized to counter Hezbollah, and the Christian militias basically will support the Lebanese army. And this is what I feel basically things are heading towards. Can the Sunni leadership basically recruit Sunnis against the Shia? Possibly, but it might fire it back against them also.
So, Sheikh, based on your analysis right now, it seems to me that, and I want to get your thoughts on this, that when the U.S. is proposing to the Lebanese government that disarm Hezbollah and we will help you with Israel in terms of some guarantees and stuff like this, they're trying to still figure that piece out. You know, they're not really promising anything, but it's in words, right? Vocal. Is this all a game?
Even if it's on a paper.
Yeah.
So the United States will always lie about protection.
Yeah, but on this point, Sheikh, is this kind of a lie so that really they're pushing the country for their real goal, as you said, which is to smash Hezbollah completely, and they don't care at what cost that goal is achieved by?
Yeah, they don't care about because the cost is life, so they don't care about that. And like, just to give you an example, like the United States promised Ukraine to defend Ukraine from the Russians or from anybody else if they give their nuclear weapons in 1994, and they're not defending them. So yeah, just going back, what we need to understand is basically the United States did not push to disarm Hezbollah for the last, let's say, 25 years.
Yeah.
Why? Because it was in the interest of the United States to keep Hezbollah blocking Israel from moving outside its borders and to capture Lebanon and to capture, let's say. So Hezbollah was in the interest of the United States for 25 years.
So what changed now?
Well, I'm not saying it changed. I'm saying basically if it did change, then they don't care about the civil war. They're fine with the country burning for them to disarm them. So we need to see on the ground if the Americans are going to keep pushing. The one who is really pushing, we know for sure because it's a fact. For the Americans, we need to know what the policy is. We can't just basically, political speech is something and then political actions on the ground is something else. We need to see the facts. The one who wants definitely Hezbollah to be disarmed is Israelis, 100%. It's a fact. It's a fact. And that's why they invaded. They tried to disarm them. They couldn't. They failed. Right? I mean, in Gaza, they failed a little bit. They had some good success there. But in Lebanon, there's, let's say, a few little successes, but they couldn't dismantle Hezbollah at large. So did they degrade the capability of Hezbollah? They did. But is enough to make to be destroy it or to make it incapable? No. So the real one who's pushing for it is the Israelis. The question is basically, are the Americans also again on the same page with the Israelis on this one? Or do they want Israel to be blocked from moving into Lebanon? So things could change, and I think things are changing every single day within the Middle East. And we just need to watch and see if the Americans are going to really provide full support to the Lebanese army and the current government to dismantle to demilitarize Hezbollah.
Now, in that scenario, if to demilitarize Hezbollah, without Hezbollah, as you mentioned, Sheikh, does Lebanon even have any security from Israel, right? Because even though Israel went in, what's preventing them from fully invading is, well, they haven't been able to fully take on Hezbollah. And the Prime Minister of Lebanon mentioned that he's relying on the U.S. envoy, Tom Barak, to ensure that Israel is prevented from invading Lebanon. Now, is that even possible? Because we saw Iran, Israel went into Iran. Can Israel just, it went into Syria? Can it just go into Lebanon again?
Definitely. This is dumb. This is a betrayal from the Prime Minister to his own country, that there is no guarantees. Like, let's take a step back. If the Prime Minister of Lebanon wants to just demilitarize Hezbollah, fine. But what are you going to do with the defense of the country? What's the alternative? Because the Lebanese army can get crushed within 2 hours by the Israelis. You see what I'm saying? So there's no alternative. That's why a long time ago, years ago, like this is like 10, 15 years ago, let's say, Hezbollah and Nasrallah used to basically ask the Lebanese government, like, okay, let's say you demilitarize us. Let's say we give out all the weapons to the Lebanese army. Who's going to defend Lebanon? Who's going to defend us? Because the Shia, the majority of the Shia are in the south, in Lebanon, as a population. Who's going to defend us? Who's going to defend our kids and so forth? Now, there's no solution. And I still remember a long time ago, I guess this is when I think Aoun came back and stuff. That they said, give us, put a plan on the table. Tell us this is how we're going to defend Lebanon. And we're willing to assimilate inside the Lebanese army. There's no problem. So again, this is basically where Nawaf Salam is just a character, is a puppet in the hands of the American ambassadors, right? So and the special envoy.
Now, Sheikh, going to Hezbollah's weapons capacity, right? Before the October 7th and before this whole the battle that they had with Israel, Hezbollah was, all the analysts were saying that Hezbollah had hundreds of thousands or 100,000 missiles and rockets and all this stuff. And in their war with Israel, they only used some several thousand, I believe. So don't they have enough capability to fight back against the government, to defend themselves in this case? Like, aren't they a very big threat in this scenario?
No, definitely. Like Hezbollah can smash the Lebanese army like in 6 hours. It's not like, but it'll cause a civil war. That's just what I'm saying. It's not like you can do that and it's fine. Everybody, no, it's just
because you have your people on the ground, they're going to be impacted. It's the same place, basically.
Yeah.
Now, one thing,
and they wouldn't do that. They're not dumb to do that. Really, like the one who's going to initiate is the Lebanese army. Yeah. The question is, do they, again, it goes back to the political will of the people on the ground, because like the Americans can come and make demands, but they need to create more pain than the pain of going through a civil war. You see what I'm saying? Like Nawaf Salam could basically, the Hezbollah could assassinate him. So he needs to balance both.
What I find, Sheikh, very odd, I'm really finding it difficult to understand. I want to get your take on this, is that Hezbollah has so many weapons, right? And they had hundreds of weapons depots in the south that have been seized by the Lebanese army. So why is Naim Qassem posing an ultimatum now?
No, because things are getting serious. And it's not, by the way, the ultimatum was given him before by other people, by other Shia leaders in Hezbollah. It's not like he's the first person, but definitely he's the Secretary General. So when he speaks, that's the official position. But the Shia have made it clear before, like a few months ago, that basically, no, we will, don't think about us giving you our weapons. This is not going to happen. So this message a few days ago is just reasserting the position that there's no negotiation on this position. And I think that they're more hardline than before, because as I said before, at one point in time, when Nasrallah basically met all the other different leaders in Lebanon, they're like, look, we have no problem basically letting go of our weapons. If there's a state that can, if there's a state with a state apparatus, right, the army and police that can protect us. But if you can't protect us, this is called political suicide. But right now, they're not even saying that. They're like, no, we're not giving it out, period, done, it's over.
My question is, how come they're letting some weapons being seized in the south?
Well, it's not about. Well, it depends. Like it may like at the end of the day, when they have to evaluate. Like let's say they grab a weapon depot. How big is it? Is it is it like 10%, 20% of what they have, or is it like 0.5%? So is it worth it to create the bigger fight, right? Yeah.
So, Sheikh, digging deeper now into the players in Lebanon, right? The Prime Minister of Lebanon, right, Nawaf Salam, he responded to Naim Qassem's video that we saw. And he said, our decisions are pure Lebanese, made by our cabinet, and no one tells us what to do. He said a statement.
This is funny stuff, basically.
And then he said, any threat or intimidation related to such war is totally unacceptable. My question is he willing to take his country into a conflict, especially since he's only been in office for 8 months now? He's been in office.
You need to understand that basic people are politically naive. Some of the people who run our countries. And at the end of the day, he sees the American envoy threatening him, let's say, and threatening his, let's say, business interests and political standing and so forth. He has not much he can only do that. And this is the problem with these small little, what I call them countrylets, these little fake states. Like Lebanon cannot be a country. It's too small for it to basically, be a country with sovereignty. Right? So there's no sovereignty in Lebanon. That's why the Syrians came in, the Israelis come in, the Americans come in, everybody comes in, right? The Iranians.
Yeah.
So there's no sovereignty. And Lebanon is supposed to be a small province within a bigger area or a bigger country. At least, at least should be part of Syria, really. Historically it was. And even before that, it was, part of something bigger. But when you become so small, when people, cut themselves off from their surrounding, and it's like what's the small country in Europe, for example? Monaco, maybe, or something like that. Like if it's even Iceland, like it's a small little country, right? Like it's defenseless. So if it's not part of the bigger European Union, let's say, or if it doesn't have, if it's not going to be protected by NATO and whatever it is, it's just it cannot exist on its own. China will come and take over, Russia will take over, and so forth. And for God's sakes, Trump want to take over Greenland, right? So it's a small little thing, So if the Denmark didn't take over and it's not protecting, that country, people will take it over. So Lebanon is a very small little thing.
Now that we know Lebanon's very small, kind of going into some of the key players here, right? Want to get your thoughts. So the Amal movement, right? They're very, Shia-affiliated group. Are they a potential alternative to Hezbollah? And my question here is, will Amal side with Hezbollah, or will they divide up the Shia support for Hezbollah?
Well, we spoke about it before, and I think there is, if the Americans press hard, the right way of doing it is just definitely split Amal from Hezbollah. But at the end of the day, it's going to be very costly because the people are going to look. This is a Shia in Lebanon. Everything is sectarian. Like every party is either Sunni, Shia, or Christian. Period. Really, there are some ideological ones, like the Ba'ath party, like the Syrian affiliated, and there's the Armenian, so it's a little bit more ethnic. So there's parties along these lines, but it's always along some line, either ethnicity or religion, and the religious sectarianism is the de facto standard. It's not like a taboo. It's like all the parties are sectarian. All the parties are as a religious affiliation. Period. All of them. Right? So because of that, this is really right now the Shia population is targeted in Lebanon. It's not about Hezbollah. It's about the Shia. This is how they're gonna see it, right or wrong, doesn't matter. I'm telling you their perspective. So if Amal tries to basically backstab Hezbollah, they're not backstabbing Hezbollah, they're backstabbing the Shia. So the leadership of Amal will get basically discarded from the Shia sect. They can see them as traitors. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to be hard for them to pull it. But again, Amal is a secular, party, unlike Hezbollah, which is a religious one. And even though they're both Shia. So one is secular Shia, one is a religious Shia. And they might see it basically as a way to gain the leadership of the Shia post-demilitarization of Hezbollah. Which is definitely part of what the United States wants. Like all these religious factions basically just, they want them dissolved, basically.
Now, subhanAllah, it's very interesting how Lebanon's, all these different segments and sectarianism and many people don't even know this, right? So it's very interesting. I want to talk about one specific religious group, right? The Christians, right? The Christian militias. What is their capacity and who are the players there? And is there a potential for them to even enter into this fight?
No, definitely not. I would say not. I would say not. I mean, it's in the 1970s, the Christian population was more. We're speaking about 50 years.
Yeah.
Demographically, the Christians basically became less and less in Lebanon. Number one is because like a Shia family might have like 6, 7, 8 children. The Christians basically might have 1 or 2, basically. Number two, most of from in terms of immigration perspective, the Christian youth, they immigrate way more to the Western world because this is the world that they love to live in. Lots of Muslim conservatives like no, the West is too liberal for us. The immigration is more. So immigration is more, and then there's less fertility from per 1,000 population units, whatever it is, basically within the Christian community. So that's lower. Number two, they still do have some militias, but you can't compare them. Hezbollah is some think tanks. They rank it from a militia perspective to be the strongest militia on planet Earth. So like you can't, like the Israeli army is a very strong army. Like facing with the Israeli army and not getting smashed and actually defeating them in 2006 is not a small thing. So you can't compare Hezbollah with the other militias that definitely probably were not being trained for the last 10, 20, 15, 20 years. And they don't have as much, let's say, experience and veterans and capacity and equipment and so forth. So, but again, like they could be trained and they could be deployed by the Americans. This is totally expected. The Israelis will train them. The Americans will train them. The other thing I think that was by the if I'm not mistaken was said by one of the American envoys. He said basically if Hezbollah will not, and this makes more sense. So this seems to be like at least on the table, one of the options for the Americans. So they threatened by saying that if Hezbollah does not give up its arms, then Lebanon will cease to exist and will go back into Bilad al-Sham, the Levantines.
Yeah.
So he's threatening with the Syrians. They're like, look, again, Jolani is a great tool for the Americans, right? We've said it a million times. We're going to keep saying it because it's what it is. Imagine basically, so they will tell Jolani to come and invade Lebanon and to clash with Hezbollah. And don't forget, Syria has 27 million people. Lebanon is still small from that perspective. And it's militias versus militia. So again, let the region burn. The United States have no problem with the region burning, like for the next 10,000 years, no problem. And this is what we need to understand. Sadly, it's not that nobody's trying to go and spread, let's say, justice and free elections and the rule of law in any country. People are just people utilize politics to gain their interest, and that's it. But from an Islamic perspective, this is wrong. We believe we want to spread justice. We want to call for justice, and we want to establish justice for everybody. There's no racism in Islam. In Islam, we don't see color. We don't see ethnicity. We don't see even religion. We believe in Islam that religion is a choice of a citizen of any society. Nobody should be forced to be Muslim, for example. So that's how it works. We believe that justice is the cause for humankind living with each other as human beings in peace and justice, and all of us have equal representation in front of the law.
Yeah, it's scary, right? That as you mentioned, like they're willing to see this region burn for a long time.
Okay.
And you mentioned Jolani, right? And I guess the question that comes up is one group we didn't speak about in Lebanon is the Sunnis, right? What about the Sunni population? Are they do you see them taking the side of Hezbollah or taking the side of the armed forces when Israel is and maybe some Christian militias will be going against Hezbollah?
So one of the political parties, there's two Sunni parties in Lebanon. There's the religious one and there's the secular one. The secular one is led by the Hariri family, Saad al-Hariri, the son of Rafiq al-Hariri, who was assassinated in Lebanon. So they run Tayyar al-Mustaqbal, which is it's called the Future Party, and then you have the Jama'ah al-Islamiyya. Jama'ah al-Islamiyya, the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, the Muslim Brotherhood. So they have also a wide populace. The Jamaat Islami is with Hezbollah. Same thing with the Christians. There's one Christian faction that was siding with Hezbollah for all along, which is Tayar al-Hur, which is the free patriotic movement.
Yeah.
They sided with Hezbollah all along, but I think now basically they know now that the Americans are against them, so they're parting ways, it seems. But so yeah, from a Sunni perspective, that's about the Sunnis. From a Sunni perspective, the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, which is the Muslim Brotherhood, represented by their political wing in Lebanon called the Jama'ah al-Islamiyya, or the Islamic movement, is and that's a political party, by the way. They would not basically they will stay neutral. They would not basically attack Hezbollah, but definitely they will not fight Hezbollah.
Okay, so at most there's going to be a neutral kind of stance. They're not going to play against the government or Hezbollah. They kind of wait and see, maybe.
Now they might rally. They might rally against the civil war. They might rally, because they've been pro Hezbollah for a long time. Like, don't forget, Hamas is Ikhwan al-Muslimin. So in Palestine, the Muslim Brotherhood branch is Hamas. In Lebanon, the Muslim Brotherhood branch is Jama'at Islami. Every country has a Muslim Brotherhood political party.
Now, in the case you mentioned that there are potential cases of civil war, right? Is there any particular areas where that, if there was a civil war, would be focused on? Will it be the whole country? Will it be focused on the south, southern Lebanon? Where would that kind of happen?
It'll be the whole country. The whole country will burn. It's not going to be in the south only. Like, it'll be done from Hezbollah to keep it in the south. Actually, they'll take it to the other areas. And look, there's not only in the south. Don't get me wrong. Basically, they're also in the Biqa and so forth. There's in other areas too, and also in Beirut and Dahi is Beirut. But Dahi got damaged a lot too. But no, the Shia again are not just in the south. The majority are in the south. Yes.
Israel is occupying specific, I think, 5 positions inside Lebanon on hilltops in southern Lebanon. Why are they still in Lebanon?
No, because the Netanyahu is still in Gaza for a reason. He's like, look, our objectives are not done. The objectives in Gaza, definitely he's lying, but he gave the 5 objectives just last week, right? About what he wants in Gaza before, In Lebanon, same thing. He wants the demilitarization of Hezbollah, period. After that, there might be other geostrategic goals for Israel, especially has to do with the water and the Litani River and so forth. So,
can you tell us more about that? What would their geostrategic goals be with the Litani River?
Well, fresh water. Fresh water is more important than oil and gas in this day and age, right? So having water sources is very important, especially for industrialized economies. And also, basically, they found lots of natural gas in the Mediterranean within the Lebanese maritime areas. So they could also basically, maybe take over some of that and so forth.
So in that case, then a civil war is like a golden opportunity for Israel to get
if you
into
burn the
fresh
country,
water,
take over.
occupy.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, another player in the region, we've spoken about a few times, Sheikh, Iran, right? Just an announcement by Iran's, defense minister. It was an announcement as well that they built a new generation of advanced missiles.
Look, bro, they don't, it's built and built and built. This is just for consumption to their followers. It's just like we saw Iran just got smashed by Israel. It's just cannot there's no political will because behind the scenes they betrayed even their own followers. They betrayed Hezbollah. They betrayed everybody. So it's just like take these announcements with a grain of salt. It's like more propaganda. I'm not going to go analyze propaganda here.
So is there a possibility then, like going to, let's say before, Iran would supply Hezbollah with weapons, right? Do they still have the ability to do that? Are they blocked off from that?
They're blocked by Syria, definitely. Okay. They're blocked by Syria. If there is some, like, let's say, underground, transfers that's been happening, it's going to be way minimal than what was happening before. And the Israelis are monitoring the whole area, and also the Syrians are monitoring the area. So I would say basically right now, from an analysis perspective, since we don't have real data on what's happening on the ground, is that the best assumption is that the Hezbollah's cut off from Iran right now.
Now, speaking of Syria, we're seeing in Lebanon, right? There's high inflation in Lebanon, poverty becoming more widespread, and there's also 1.5 million Syrian refugees remaining inside Lebanon. So with this situation and tensions growing, could this lead to an opportunity where now Syria has the opportunity to go into Lebanon under the pretext to say, we have some of our people in there, we want to make sure that they're not harmed?
Well, as I said, basically, this is what the Americans have been threatening with. So, but it's not like the Syrians right now are. Syria have its own trouble. So if Lebanon becomes another big trouble, I think it's going to be really devastating for the whole region for at least a decade to come.
So, Sheikh, in the scenario where the U.S. wants the Syrian government to attack Lebanon, Hezbollah, will that be a scenario where Israel will go in and backstab Syria as they've been attacking them from before, or will Israel just also use that as a chance to go and defeat Hezbollah?
No, I think it's in the benefit and in the interest of the Israelis to let the Syrians go deal with Hezbollah. So they would be very happy, laughing and eating some popcorns.
To bring this podcast to a close, Sheikh, there's one theme that's been very common throughout this analysis of what's been going on in Lebanon, and that is sectarianism, right? Just this unique demographic makeup in Lebanon that's pretty unique to it. It makes it kind of hard for Lebanon to really have stability. So I want to ask you, Sheikh, in certain countries in the Muslim world with very unique demographics, how can peace, prosperity, and progress even be possible?
No, it's not possible. The Lebanon was created by the French in such a way to make it impossible to have any peace and prosperity and progress. The original design of the country by the French in Sykes-Picot in the early 1900s is to create a country that will continue to be a place of friction and turmoil. Like this is not a country. It's not supposed to be a country. It's somebody basically cutting off a portion, leaving it basically 1/3 Christian, 1/3 Muslim, 1/3 Shia, maybe at that time, and that's what they claim at least. But and supporting the Christians against everybody else, right? To create constant conflict. That's really what it is. They know that if there's equal balance between the Shia, the Sunni, and the Christians, that they're not going to work together. Like what we said a million times is that what leads to progress and prosperity and peace is agreement, right? People agree with on how they want to live as a society. But you have three opposing people. I mean, the Shia and the Sunnis, they should have resolved it. But again, like the colonialism spurred lots of, enticed lots of sectarianism between the Muslims, right? So now you have Sunni and Shia. We should never basically speak about Sunni and Shia. It should be about just Muslim. But the facts on the ground, sadly, that there's lots of hate is being spurred and enticed by many different benefiting factors and actors in the Lebanese theater. And the Christians are not going to basically agree with the Muslims, and the Christians are not going to agree with the Muslims. And they're balanced. It's just they're not going to agree. And it doesn't mean that there will be fights, but there will be some fights here and there. That means basically the country will continue to be in a state of turmoil and friction. That's why there should be a majority. If there's a majority, like a 90%, 80%, 70%, then okay, this is how the country is going to run. Even from a democratic perspective, people basically believe that the majority rules, right? So if there's no majority, you have conflict. People need to agree on how they're going to live in a country together as a nation. And if there's a majority, the majority will say, okay, this is how we're going to live. And if the majority is not going to go crush the minority, there won't be resistance, there'll be peace. If the majority takes care of the minority will feel basically, cared for. And there's some justice and so forth. So then everybody can live together. But the architecture of Lebanon, since the inception of Lebanon in 1943, the one who created it made sure that we're gonna cut it up from the remainder of the region to create continuous struggle between its factions.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. I really enjoyed the analysis on Lebanon. Lots of learnings and new things that I've learned today. And everybody, make sure you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, lots of viewers are watching. Shadow Incognito viewers, make sure that you subscribe now and like, comment, and share. And we'll continue to keep releasing top quality content, inshallah ta'ala. We'll see you all in the next episode of i3 Pulse. Assalamu alaikum.